Hey everyone, how's it going? I just wanted to do a short video essay rant video about Peak, a game that has been pretty popular as of late. I want to talk about some of the issues that I've been having with the game and why I currently don't play it, even though I really want to. I have a few videos of a run we did on the channel here, and it was very, very fun, and none of the issues really came up in that video. It was, that was back closer to when it first came out. We were having a lot of fun, and I want to make more videos on it, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be going to, because I'm going to get into that in a little bit. But as a preface, let me start off by saying that this is coming out of a place of love for the game. I want to see this game succeed because I find it really fun and engaging. I love the cooperative aspect that the game fosters and how it combines strategic planning with execution. And I think a lot of us can agree that making it up the mountain in Peak is not necessarily difficult. The real challenge comes with trying to get everyone on your team to the top. It requires good resource management and teamwork to make it happen. What I wanted to talk about today was the issues the game is currently having, and my recent experiences that right now hold me back from recommending this game to anyone who is interested. One thing I don't like about the game is that there aren't any checkpoints along your journey. Now, I know what people are going to say. You're supposed to do it all in one go using the resources that you've gathered from the first level all the way to the last. And to that, I agree. I believe that that is the proper way to play the game, and I enjoy playing it that way. However, sometimes not everyone has a couple hours on hand to devote to a session, and so, that has an effect, right? There are also times where, we fail a run on stage like 3 or 4, let's say, and we don't want to start over from the beginning. I think they should include an optional checkpoint system that works in such a way that if you've made it to Alpine, for example, and lose, you should have the option to restart from the beginning of Alpine or Tropics or whatever, up to that point to where you failed. If you haven't made it that far, then you can't start from there. But I think, just give the basic resources that you would give at the beginning of the game anyway when you start there, minus Bing Bong, because there is an achievement for bringing him all the way to the top. So, yeah, but you can have the checkpoint option perma-disabled on the higher ascent levels or difficulties as well if you want, because I guess that would make sense if you wanted to do that. But for many of us, this game is just a way to chill with friends, have some laughs, and just climb a mountain together. I just think this would give the players both options of playing, right? If you want to do it all in one run and restart when you lose, you can. But if you want to restart from where you left off, you can do that as well. The number one reason that I am actually suggesting this option be added is because of the connection issues that many of us have faced since the game's launch. With the group that I play with, we have had multiple disconnections and crashes occur with almost everyone in the group at some point. For example, Cassie disconnects from the game at the very beginning of every run. That's a given. Now that's not a huge issue because that's at the beginning of the game. There's not really much risk there. Her computer's just slow, and that's okay. We want to make sure we stay with everyone in the group because that's what the game's about. However, disconnecting during later levels is more troublesome. And the game doesn't usually let you reconnect to a run that's already in progress. Occasionally it will. I don't know why. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Occasionally it will let you reconnect, but usually it won't. And it will sometimes even say that the game does not exist. The host would have to restart the game and the lobby completely for it to have the player join again. And if the host disconnects, the run is just immediately over. So this needs to be fixed, or at least having a checkpoint system would help mitigate the frustration in the meantime while you work on a fix. You can't have widespread disconnection problems like this in a game, when your game is all about doing it all in one go without checkpoints, right? That's one of my main frustrations with the game right now is the connection issues. My other main gripe with Peak is the numerous bugs and glitches that can happen when playing and trying to perform basic functions and actions in the game. While I have a few videos on Peak on my channel, none of these are from the examples that I'm about to give. Unfortunately, I wish I was recording during these so that I can show you properly, but I wasn't. So I will do my best to describe the details. But before I dive into this point, I of course want to acknowledge that Peak is a new indie game. And so yeah, it's not going to be perfect, and you shouldn't expect it to be perfect. I'm okay with, if I occasionally clip into the ground or terrain once in a while, hell, I think that's pretty funny and can make for some good bits. But what I'm referring to is the basic yet essential functions of the game just straight up not working sometimes. Aside from occasionally getting punted off the mountain by weird physics or forces, there have been times where I or another member of the team will get stuck in a tight crevice that for some reason ends up propelling you downwards at with such force that it instantly kills you. It's funny the first time, but it's happened multiple times now, and it becomes a little annoying. Another big issue is grabbing items and objects. Having to jump first before grabbing a chain launcher chain, or you get stuck in place. Maybe your character just won't grab a vine or a python and you'll fall through instead. Maybe you do get on a vine, but you run into an invisible wall that, partway through that blocks your verticality. I haven't played the game in a couple weeks. I haven't played since the Mesa update released, but I have experienced bugs like this in my past 3 runs, and 2 of which were failed runs due to these issues. So it kind of soils the experience for me a bit. In one of those recent runs, I died from failing the same jump twice, because my character decided just not to grab onto a vine that I jumped for, even though I saw the prompt to press E to grab the vine, and I pressed the interact button, and nothing happened. I fell just straight through the vine, all the way down the cliff. Unacceptable. It was just me and Cassie on this run too, so, and I had the backpack, so we were out of most of our resources because of that. I'll highlight, in my most recent session is the one I remember the most, and this is the session where that made me decide to stop playing for the time being. It was me and Cassie again. It was just the 2 of us, and we had made it to Alpine. I don't claim to be good at this game generally, but we were having a fantastic run up until this point. Neither of us had taken any damage, no fall damage, no poison, nothing. We were moving efficiently and together. We were doing an excellent job of managing our food and resources. And so we finally reach a point towards the end of Alpine where we come across a difficult climbing spot. I say, okay, we're doing great on resources. This part looks a bit dicey. Let's use an item here. I have some tools in my backpack, including a shelf shroom that I thought would be perfect for the situation. I pull out my backpack, drop it on my feet, but instead, it just falls through the floor. It just disappears. I wasn't on any weird terrain or geometry or anything, so, there's no reason that this should have happened here. So there it goes after, over half our resources, namely the ones that I would have used in this situation that we were currently in. And so I was like, well, gotta try our best to make it up there with what we have now. At this point, I didn't know how far down the backpack was or if it was even retrievable at that point, because it looks like it just fell through the mountain. So I tried climbing up to the next ledge to the best of my ability, and I barely didn't make it. My character was actively trying to make the last step, but just fell short, and for some reason the physics shot me off the mountain with enough force that I didn't land back where I was, and I fell all the way to the bottom and died. At that point, I wasn't even upset. I was still in disbelief that I lost the backpack to the game fucking up like that. And Cassie died shortly after in a similar way. And now here's something I noticed as I was spectating her. As her body was falling down the mountain, as our run was coming to a close, I saw the backpack I had lost. It was inside the terrain. It was deep within the geometry of the mountain, meaning that even if I wanted to or had enough time to go back down and try and get it back, I wouldn't have been able to. Unreal. You need to fix the game. I have not played since, and I don't plan to until these issues have been resolved. You know, it pains me to say that because when the game works, it's really enjoyable and fun to do with friends. But sadly, these issues are too common, you know, for me to recommend the game right now. I have yet to leave a Steam review in hopes that this stuff might get fixed soon, but it seems that the developers are more focused on adding cannibalism, new items, and a new mesa biome to the map. You know, normally I'd be all for it. I was always really interested in seeing new biomes and new maps on the game and ways to interact with the world here, but not at the expense of the game's stability. I'm not just pointing the finger at Peak for this. Like, I feel like a lot of games these days, especially live service games, have fallen into the trap of content bloat, as I like to call it. You know, where you're constantly pushing more content just for the sake of pushing more content. Or, you know, in some unfortunate cases, some games prioritize, you know, some game developers prioritize pushing new content over fixing existing issues and improving stability. You know, for example, I've been playing a lot of Helldivers recently, Helldivers 2. And I love the game, you know, for its thrilling gameplay, its incredible soundtrack, the cinematic moments you can create throughout, you know. Arrowhead just released a huge update with tons of cool new content. You know, new maps and terrain, new enemy types for the Terminids, new missions, new items and battle passes. Also the game was just released on Xbox. Like, there's a lot of great stuff going for the game right now. But yet, the game is probably in the worst state it's ever been in, stability-wise. You know, if I ever go into random lobbies, or if I'm playing with friends, you know, on Discord, people are having their games crash, you know, sometimes even locking up their computer. The game audio is dipping out, the screen will sometimes freeze, you know, sometimes it comes back, sometimes it doesn't, it leads to a crash. You know, recently someone's SSD failed because they were like streaming the game and their PC crashed and corrupted the file and the SSD along with it. Like, it's horrible. What I'm getting at is that pushing out new content doesn't fix already existing problems of the game. You know, sometimes it can even make these existing issues worse because they're just being so much. Going back to Peak here, cool. The new Mesa biome looks neat, but I'm not going to see it unless they fix the basic stuff first. I think that's going to do it for my rant on Peak. You know, again, this game, when it works, is fantastic. It's really fun and entertaining, and I want to see it succeed. You know, and I think it is still succeeding. I think a lot of people haven't had some of these issues yet. This has been my experience, and that's mainly why I'm making this video. This is out of love for the game and the developers who have worked hard to give us this experience so far. You know, I think it has a lot of potential, and I really want to see it do well, and I want to play it again. Yeah, that's going to be it for this video. You know, let me know what you think of Peak. You know, again, I love the game. I think it's pretty. I think it's fun to do with friends. It's wacky. It's silly. I love the animation, the cute characters, the gameplay. You know, I love the strategizing you have to do to get to the top. I like all of that stuff. But the way it is right now, there's too many problems for me. You know, that kind of unfortunately just kind of ruins the experience. So I want them to fix the stuff, and that's why I made this video. I'm hoping this will maybe spark something. If not, oh well, I have other things to do. Thank you guys for watching this video. Let me know what you thought in the comments below, and as always, I will see you next time. See ya.